Yes, good afternoon, everyone. So, this is Lakshmikant, and welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Now, this is the third session of Ethics Core Booster program that we are providing on YouTube live for free of cost for those students, especially writing mains 2026 this time. It will be also helpful for those preparing for 2027 attempt also. Now, we have covered two sessions. Let me quickly tell you what we have covered. We have covered the first part of our syllabus, that is normative ethics or essence of ethics, determinants and dimensions of ethics in the first session. In the second session, we have covered the important personalities, leaders and social reformers, their contribution, and we can say that their lessons from their life that we can learn. Now, in today's session, we'll cover the important part, that is socialization process, ethics in public and private relations, and some of the applied aspect of these human values and how they are important in the present society. So without any delay, let's start with this session. Again, I'm repeating whatever the things that we are covering in this session, these notes that we are, let's say, brainstorming here, this PDF along with the micro notes, it is being provided at the end of this session in the comment box with the Google Drive link. So you can download from there itself. So let's start with the first part of our syllabus, that is ethics in private and public relations, right? So this is very important topic because it is also, we can say that, applied in your case studies part. Now let's try to understand first of all, what do you mean by ethics in private relations and ethics in public relations? As a part of definition, in differentiating these two, let's try to understand ethics in private relation. As the name suggests, private relations. Private means mostly it will be, we can say that we will be dealing about the relations which are personal relations. Personal relations, like we can say that father, mother, or we can say that with the children, or husband, wife relation, or we can say that with the friends, peers. So that is, we can say that, the personal relations or private life. So whatever the ethical values or determinants, or we can say that the principles that we apply while dealing with the personal relations in the private life, we can call it as ethics in private life, or we can say private relations. Same in public relations, when we are interacting with the outside world, especially in the society as well as at the work. Okay, so professional space we can call it. So there we can talk about that whatever the ethical standards, norms we follow while dealing with the other people in that space, we will call it as ethics in public relations. So in the definition part, I hope that you have understood what do you mean by ethics in personal, or sorry, private relation, ethics in public relation. So here I will mention that it is, we can say that, the relations, especially we can say that related to personal relations. And here I will say that professional relations. Then nature. What do you mean by nature here? Nature of ethics in private relation. Mostly we can say that they are related to, they are more of informal nature. Okay, they are more of a informal nature, they are more of a flexible in nature, right? But if you talk about ethics in public relations, we have to follow certain codified standards. So codified standards will be there. For example, for civil servants, so we have conduct rules, code of conduct for civil servants. So these codified norms, they are, we can say, more of a rigid in nature. They are rigid in nature, flexible, rigid, one has to follow them. Then driven by, we can say that it is largely driven by, let's say, personal relations. For example, we can say that here we can talk about family, friends, relatives. So this is personal space, we can say family, parents, or we can say husband, wife relation, love relations. So that is, we can say that, private relation driven by these things. And here we can say driven by the profession of the person, we can say that. Okay, profession. No, there can be, for example, doctor, civil servants, lawyers. So whatever the profession we are having here, so that is having a particular nature, and that is driven by the things that are, let's say, carried out, the functions that are carried out. Now if violated, now if, let's say, violated in let's say ethics in private relation, what we can expect? So let's say in your personal relations, let's say husband wife relation is there, the trust is broken, or let's say in the friendship the trust is broken, the loyalty is broken, then in that situation what happens? There is no as such major law or let's say rule is broken and you are going to be legally punished or penalty will be there. Rather there can be some kind of let's say social sanctions like let's say the friends. So the friendship will be broken, the people will not be able to trust you as a loyal friend, trustworthy person. So then there can be social sanction also. Let's say there is extramarital affair by the person, then the people will not be considering you as a person with good character. Okay, so that there will be some kind of social sanction, social exclusion, and there is, we can say, this fear of social sanction. Then we can say moral sanction also to some extent. Okay, moral sanction. Why? Because these relations are driven by love, care, compassion, empathy, right? And when we see, let's say see that the love relations are broken, when the person leaves you or that relation is broken, somehow you feel, we can say that there is remorse, guilt feeling inside you. Let's say when the trust is broken, the loyalty is broken in that relation, personal relations life. So then we can talk about, let's say, guilt feeling. Now that is called as moral sanction. But what about ethics in public relation? If violated, there can be legal sanction. There can be legal sanction. For example, if suppose the doctor is doing immoral practices, then there is medical code of conduct by medical corporation of India, MCI. So that will be, we can say that, implemented. Or we can say that for civil servants there can be simply code of conduct or conduct rules. So disciplinary action can be initiated against the civil servant for, we can say that, violating the conduct rules. So in this manner we should understand there can be legal sanction. Then major role in private relations, there is a major role of emotions, feelings, emotions, feelings. I told you that the emotions play a major role in this part: love, care, compassion, right? And we can say that belongingness, that feeling of belongingness, love. So that actually focuses or emphasizes us, or we can say force us to follow the ethics in private relations. While here the major role is of rules, norms, and regulations. Okay, rules, norms, and regulations. Rules, norms, and regulations. So it is more of an external, don't you think so? It is more of an external, it is codified, and we can say that rigid legal sanction. So in this manner we should understand. Now ethics in private relation and ethics in public relation shares important relationships. First of all, we can talk about as they are completely separate. So when we are saying that they are completely separate, what does it mean? Is it true? Let's try to justify it. First of all, they are completely separate. Why we are calling them as completely separate? Because two have different, we can say that, areas, and driven by different principles, values, norms. अभी हमने देखा differences है. One is having, we can say that, legal sanction, other is having a social or moral sanction. One is driven by the love, compassion, care, feelings, and emotions, while let's say other is driven by rules, rigid rules, codified rules, norms. तो ये जो चीज है याद रखना है. That's why we can say that then one, it is generally said that one should not or we can say that every person should have or enjoy privacy. It is, we can say that, a fundamental right. It is a fundamental right. So one should not go into the private life of the people. Article 21 of Indian Constitution will talk about right to privacy. So one should not go into the private life and understand and try to judge their actions and let's say justify that these actions are, let's say, wrong. They are the basis for their actions in the public life, professional space. So privacy is important aspect. They are completely, we can say that, separate. Then we can talk about a person can have different standards at work and with family. Now we are talking positively, okay, I'm not talking negatively, I'm talking positively, how there can be different standards. So at work the person needs to be very strict, the person needs to be disciplined, the person needs to be having some kind of sense of accountability. But with family the person can have soft approach, right? The person can be soft with the children at home, their own children, with let's say wife. So the person can be lovely. अब ऑफिस में अगर सबके साथ सॉफ्ट रहेगा तो देयर विल बी लाइक the people will not respect senior, then the people will not respect authority. So that's why the person needs to be very strict and enforce the laws, rules and regulations in the professional space. And that's why we can say that the person can have different standards at work and family, and in positive sense we are talking, not negative sense, to enforce different standards that are required at work and we can say that family. Okay, so that's why we can say that they are completely separate. So in this manner we can talk about with certain examples that I am telling you. You can give, let's say, example for this one. Privacy also, like every individual has a private life. Article 21 example you can talk about, and it is basically the fundamental right of every citizen that must be protected and respected. In this manner we can talk. However, the second view, right, the other people will believe or say that they influence each other, there is a reciprocal relationship. Now how there is a reciprocal relationship? First let's understand that how private life influences public life. We should understand it's not only the negative relationship, we should give both positive and negative influence. Okay, positive as well as negative influence, and let's say examples also for both. So how we are talking here that how it influences, let's try to understand the private life. When we talk about private life influencing public life, positive example you can talk about in private life, if the person is very honest, trustworthy, or we can say that is loyal to, we can say, spouse, wife, husband, the person is likely to have integrity at work. The person is likely to have integrity at work. The person is likely to have loyalty towards organization. Okay, the person is likely to have loyalty towards the organization. So the person will be always confidential about the information, right? Important information, important decisions of the organization, it will not be leaked outside. So there will be some kind of integrity and loyalty, and the person will feel accountable, right? The person will feel that I belong to this organization. That kind of positive influence there will be, it will be there. The person, when a person is trustworthy at home, or we can say that among the friends, the person can be also trustworthy at work, because the person will have similar traits, honesty, integrity, and that's why the person becomes trustworthy. In this manner we should understand. Then negative influence, private life, what can be the negative aspect of private life? Let's say the personal relations are not good. Okay, so there is a stress in the personal life, and because of that, that stress may influence the person's productivity. So let's say stress, it will affect the productivity at work, efficiency at work, isn't it? Let's say husband wife relation, marital relations are undergoing in stress. Okay, or let's say the person has been facing a mental stress agony because of loss of life of some loved one at home, in the family. Somehow it is going to influence, we can say that, have the negative impact on the, let's say, person's public life in terms of productivity, efficiency also. Is this clear? Now if the person is, let's say, not loyal or trustworthy in the personal life, अब ये negative example, negative trait है, right? And the person is cheating his wife, the person is not feel or have take does not take responsibility of the children household, the person is also to some extent going to have let's say lack responsibility or sense of responsibility at work also. That, let's say, nature of the person is going to be reflected at work also. In this manner we should give examples. Then the second aspect is that how public life or public relations affect private life. Again we can talk about positive and negative relations, we can say negative influences, positive influences. So public relations or public space, public life. So if suppose the person is having very good colleagues, right? So they are having good team at work, and that will create a sense of belonging, a positive, let's say, aspect in terms of some kind of goal aim in the life. A professional career is going well, and that will have the positive influence on the personal life, because there is a sense of security, job security hai, so automatically there will be sense of security at home. Then at the same time that will result into some kind of positive emotions at work also, right? You will be always happy when you go home, because at work you are having positive aspect. So this is how the positive influence. Negative influence, let's say at work your boss is always yelling at you, that you are, let's say, continuously overburdened by the work at workplace, and you are not able to, let's say, justify the timelines, complete the work in the time, and your boss is always angry at you. You are coming home and you are doing the work at home also, and then somehow you are not able to give time to your family members, children, and that is going to affect your work life balance. Negative impact, it is going to have a negative impact. So in this manner we should talk about, let's say, whenever we are speaking about, let's say, influences relation, think broader. It can be positive as well as negative influence. Those who are online, yes, if you have any question just let me know. Okay, I am going to address all your queries. So yes, this relationship. Now in conclusion, what we can say, in conclusion we should understand two aspects. One, when our personal life starts influencing the public life, when our personal life or private life start influencing the public life, then automatically it will be end of ethics in private relation and start of ethics in public relation. I will give you example. If Mr. X and Miss Y are having some kind of, let's say, relation at public place, okay, or public life, not public place, sorry, at public life, or we can say that at workplace, at workplace, in the same office. So generally it is going to create some kind of, let's say, negative environment, or to some extent it will affect the teamwork, it will affect the overall productivity of that team. And that's why, although it is a personal life, ठीक है, उनका जो भी रिलेशन होगा, it is a personal life, but still it is affecting the productivity, efficiency, and overall work culture in the public place, or we can say that workplace. Then it is start of ethics in public relation, end of private relation, no? Private life. Is this clear? So one should be very clear about this. Second aspect is that the people who are enjoying, we can say that, responsible positions in society, right? Responsible positions in the society, for example we can talk about leaders, politicians, civil servants, famous actors, sports persons, right? So influencers, like nowadays social media influencers, very important. People, like millions of millions followers are there, social media influencers. ये लिखना है, ठीक है, this is going to be very important nowadays, very relevant. Now they are having some responsible positions. Why? Because what they do in the public sphere as well as their private life, it is being watched continuously by the people, their followers. Basically, they are role models in the society. They are role models in the society. So they are continuously being watched upon, their behavior, their conduct, both in public sphere, public life as well as private life is being watched. And if they behave in a different standards, with different standards in the public life and private life, then there will be dissonance in the minds of followers, and then they will question these role models, and it is going to create a negative impact on overall society. In social influence and persuasion, we will talk about it in detail, but this will be called as a double standard by these people, double standards. So what people preach in the public life, if they are not following in their personal life, if suppose the person is preaching and let's say participating in the event which is promoting gender equality, and if later on found that a leaked video from his CCTV camera at home that he is doing or beating his own wife or doing the domestic violence, now that is going to be a double standard. There was very, let's say, what we can say, famous video, or one of the retired high court judge and his wife were beating their daughter-in-law, and that CCTV camera footage became very viral. Now can you imagine, that person was delivering justice for 30 years, wherein there might be some like hundreds and thousands of cases of domestic violence. Now can you imagine whether that person would have been given the fair decisions in those cases, if that person's in the personal life, that person is having that kind of attitude, or we can say that discriminatory approach. And that's why personal life or private life of, let's say, judges or politicians, and those people at responsible positions, their decisions are going to impact a large number of people, their behavior is going to impact large number of, let's say, followers, then they should behave in a very responsible manner, both in their private as well as public life. Then you can take examples like we can talk about is Sachin Tendulkar, Amitabh Bachchan. So in their personal life as well as in their, let's say, public life, they are promoting and practicing same things. Same Mahatma Gandhi, you can take example, right? So whatever he preached, he practiced first, applied that is in own life, and then we can say that he preached for others. And this is how we should also link examples. ठीक है, आपको एग्जांपल्स देने आने चाहिए. And responsible, that's why it is called as fiduciary responsibility. By the virtue of the position you are holding, right, responsible positions, you cannot have double talk, double speak, or double standards, and must have uniform standard of conduct. Only then that person will be called as having a person of strong character. And that's why ultimately we need people with strong character, right, good character. Shilam param bhushanam. Okay, linked with civil servants also, the character is most important virtue of civil servant, and that's why there should be uniform standards of conduct. For civil servants, you should give examples that the conduct rules not only regulate the public life of the civil servants, but also few aspects of private life. For example, if the civil servant is marrying the other person without giving divorce to the existing spouse, then that person will experience will have disciplinary action under conduct rule. IS officers, IPS officers have been terminated because of this thing in past. You can give that example also. It shows lack of honesty, integrity, loyalty. अगर पर्सनल लाइफ में लॉयल नहीं है पर्सन, ऑनेस्ट नहीं है, तो ऑटोमेटिकली इट विल बी रिफ्लेक्टेड इन पब्लिक life, and the people's trust in that civil servant and overall administration and institution will be reduced because of such actions in the private life. And that's why they such kind of action is needed, for those people in the responsible position. They must be held accountable. I hope that you have understood this topic very well. Now moving on to next topic. Okay, there was one question in UPSC examination. It can be repeated in a different manner also. Let's try to understand what it is. Ethical management and management of ethics. So it was asked differentiate between these two terms. Okay, we had to differentiate in the 50 words. So 4 5 points, if you write, it will be easier. Let's try to understand quickly this concept. Ethical management. So both are basically talking about applying ethics, but in applying ethics in an organization and its functioning, its control, but in a different manner. Ethical management is focusing on achieving organizational goals in fair, transparent, and socially responsible manner. In a fair, transparent, and socially responsible manner. That means it is applying all those theories and principles in ethics for having, let's say, ethical decisions. Okay, and those decisions are towards welfare of society, towards welfare of employees of that let's say organization, as well as towards all stakeholders, customers of that organization. So that will be called as, we can say, ethical management. For example, it talks about ethical leadership, it talks about fair and just decisions, it talks about social responsibility towards society like CSR, corporate social responsibility, and transparency and honesty. So that means you can see that corporate governance, all the principles of corporate governance are applied here. Right? Ethical leadership, it talks fair and just decisions, social responsibility, transparency, honesty. So how a company and organization is basically run and controlled. This is corporate governance, Adrian Cadbury definition. Now, all these principles are part of that. Is this clear? Now, within the organization, it was not, let's say, only limited to organization. No, it was talking about social responsibility and all these things. But yes, when we are talking about management of ethics, this is specific to how we are having particularly management of that organization, how ethical principles are applied to that level of management in the organization. Like for example, when, let's say, there is a management in organization, the management faces various ethical issues and ethical dilemmas, as well as the management enjoys the power and authority. So there can be conflict of interest, there can be, we can say that, unethical decisions, and therefore it talks about code of ethics for them, it talks about ethics committee, it talks about ethical training and awareness, and it also talks about monitoring and compliance. So this is specifically at the management level, we can say that, and this will ensure that the management is held accountable, their decisions are more ethical, there will not be any conflict of interest involved. So that's why it is promoting ethical conduct in the organization, it is establishing systems and processes and ensuring ethical conduct at the management. And when it is ensured, automatically the ethical management is expected in an organization. Let's talk about example. Okay, so let's say, first of all, we'll talk about ethical management. So suppose a company is going to have a particular, let's say, industry plant. It wants to expand its, let's say, industry in a particular state, and there are, let's say, three options available for different locations in that state. One option, one site, which is going to result in some kind of deforestation. There is a forest area, the people, tribal people, are also living there, and their livelihood is dependent on it. And this particular location is very much near from the raw material supply, so it will be cheaper for the organization. Okay, but second option is a little bit farther away, but there will not be any, let's say, environmental damage, or there will not be any relocation or rehabilitation of the people. So but it is little bit farther, and we can say that that will have more cost for the company. Now when the company takes decision between these two sides, when the company decides the second option instead of first, then it is more of a socially and environmentally responsible decision. That's why ethical management. That's why ethical management. Now, here within the organization, suppose management is going to recruit some important people, employment related, and the management, the person in the management is having authority to take interviews, and we can say recruitment. Suppose one of the friend or relative of that person is, let's say, also applying for that position, as in going to have the, let's say, interview and then the person who is going to take interview will have some kind of conflict of interest. This is actual conflict of interest. In that situation, the code of ethics will ensure that the person is not going to have interview of that friend, or we can say relative. There must be some recusal process, disclosure of conflict of interest according to code of ethics. Ethics committee will ensure that if it is found like that, then there will be some kind of action. So it is ensuring accountability. It is ensuring accountability. Such kind of examples we can give, and we can differentiate between these two terms. I hope now you have understood it very clearly. Now let's talk about next important syllabus topic. Let me tell you, minimum one question directly and several questions indirectly can be dealt from this syllabus topic. Now, socialization, role of parents, teachers or schools and overall society in terms of inculcation of human values. And let's say we will talk about some applied aspect in terms of how, let's say, human values in present society, whether they are, let's say, a crisis of human values in the present society, whether there is trust deficit in the present society, how we can make ourselves as a trustworthy person. What do you mean by patriotism in our daily life? How we can practice it? We have to give justification to answer. So in this manner we can, let's say, discuss the next topic. Okay, so first of all, the process of socialization, we can say that, first of all, definition. Socialization, we can say that it is a process through which person receives we can say that certain values and build their own belief system or morality. So it helps in building own individual morality. That is called as, we can say, socialization process. More standard definition also we can give, like it is a lifelong process through which individuals learn or internalize the values, norms, beliefs, and roles of their society, enabling them to function as a responsible and effective members of the community. So that is called as socialization, and it is basically, since we can say childhood, as the child is born, from the family level, basically the everyone, every person is getting all these values, norms, and we can say that beliefs from different agents of socialization. Let's talk about them first. Agents of socialization. Different agents of socialization are basically inculcating all these values, including human values, through these processes: interaction, imitation, learning, internalization, reinforcement, value formation. Remember, use these terms in your answers. Use these terms in your answers. Okay, they are more of a, let's say, psychology or technical terms. Now first of all, the parents and family, very important. They play important role. Why? Because that is the first informal organization, informal institution, we can say that, to which basically child is in contact, and child is spending significant amount of time in the early years of their life with the parents and family. And the child is having, a child's mind is basically clean slate, and therefore whatever the child is observing, basically it is, let's getting inculcated into the mind, or imprinted in on the mind of children. So before starting this part, let me also tell you some stages of, we can say that, moral development. Stages of moral development given by Lawrence Kohlberg. You can give some, let's say, thinker's name also, like this. So what are the stages he has given? He has given basically 6 stages divided into, we can say that, 3 stages, like this: pre conventional stage, we can say that 3 to 7 years of age. Then conventional conventional stage, 8 to 13 years of age. And then we can say that post conventional adulthood. Okay, now here you should know that moral reasoning is basically based on, first of all, the moral reasoning is in terms of pre-conventional level. So here, avoid punishment. Moral reasoning is based on avoiding punishment, we can say that. So that is the focus mostly, and getting reward, getting reward. So you can see that the children, how they behave. If they behave good, then their parents, grandparents are going to appreciate that behavior, going to give some chocolates, reward to them. Okay, so this is the basically behavior that children are getting influenced. So this moral reasoning at this stage. Then thereafter at conventional stage, basically the moral reasoning is based on what? It is based on, we can say that, the law and order following, we can say that, based on external ethics, based on external ethics. And then in adulthood it will be based on personal ethics. Now what are these 6 stages? Let's try to understand. So here there will be 2 stages, right? First one we can talk about is simply avoid punishment. It will be avoid punishment. Second will be, उसके ऊपर क्या रहेगा? Self interest. So you can see that the children are always seeking self interest. They're not concerned about others' interest as such, and that's why at that stage continuously you must be, let's say, thinking the parents are and teachers are always, teaching them to sharing, value of sharing, because they are always selfish, self interest. Their toys, they will not allow other children to play with their toys. If let's say papa or parents are giving them ice cream or unka jo tiffin hai, they will not share with the other people, other children. So this self interest is there, and that's why the values of sharing, caring for others, needy people, ये सब बताना पड़ेगा उनको उस टाइम पे, ये देना पड़ता है. So these values are influenced by avoiding punishment and getting reward. Then the next stages comes under, we can say that, conventional stages. So which are these? Yes, good boy, nice girl. So here the children will be focusing on appreciation from the society, right? So in this age, you can imagine, you can remember yourself also, 8 to 13. If suppose some relatives are coming at home, so you will be very nice to them. You will always, let's say, give respect, will be respectful towards your relatives, है ना, पैर पड़ना उनका, let's say, वो पूछना उनको. This is how we try to be in this particular, let's say, part. And it is external means we need some, we seek some kind of appreciation from the other people. Then also, if let's say talk about adolescence, then law and order orientation. Suddenly what happens in this particular age is people are like, children are focusing on following the laws, rules, regulations, right? Law and order orientation ho jata hai, right? And then thereafter comes post conventional stage. Now we are focusing more on internal or personal ethics, so here we will focus more on social contract. Social contract means we will focus more on our own rights, freedom, liberty, equality. So these rights will focus. So we'll try to seek these rights from the government. We'll question the government in this particular age. And then finally in 30s and 40s, we'll reach to the Kantian phase, or it is also called as universal principles. Universal principles is also called as Kantian phase. So here we will try to seek wisdom, ठीक है, based on knowledge, experience, seek wisdom, self actualization according to Abraham Maslow, the highest, let's say, need, fifth stage, self actualization. So this is the way there is moral development happens from childhood to adulthood. Okay, now you can understand the role of parents here, role of parents and family, the first stage. So of course the parents and family, the children are going to focus more on, we can say that, rewards and minimizing the punishment. The behavior will be like that only, and the parents will reinforce that through reward and punishment, through reward and punishment. Then second, we can say that observational learning. So I told you they will observe and imitate. They will observe and imitate. So imitation, look at this, imitation, right? And they will learn from it. Reinforcement, when we reward the positive behavior, it will be reinforced. When we can say that we punish the negative behavior, wrong behavior, again we can say it will be removed. So this is how ultimately it will result in value formation. Give examples. If the child lies to the parents, then it, let's say parents punish that child, isn't it? So that is, we can say, punishment. So automatically the child starts speaking truth, and then it will the parents also reward if the child is speaking truth. So automatically that becomes the value in that child. Okay, honesty, value formation. Then the school teachers, we can say that they are the first formal, we can say that, first formal institution. Formal institution means there will be some rules, regulations for the children, and major role is played by the teachers. Teachers, they are basically role models for the children. They act as a role models and they inculcate some important human values. Like we can talk about is rationality, or we can talk about is sharing, respect, inclusiveness, tolerance, team building, team, we can say that, as a team player, the person. Then leadership value is also inculcated. Lead by example. Parents them, sorry, teachers themselves act as a role model for children. So this is how their role is very important. Then the peer groups, ठीक है, तो peer groups मतलब आपके friends जो है, colleagues हैं, right? Over the period of time, even in childhood, now adulthood, over the period they influence our behavior, our moral understanding of what is right and wrong, and somehow that also lead to value formation. Like for example, let's say there is a group of, let's say, adolescent children, and if some of them have some bad habit of smoking, now out of that peer pressure, the other children also tries to, do that. There is nowadays concept called as fear of missing out, FOMO. There was one essay topic also last year in mains examination, fear of missing out. Now the peer pressure is creating this fear of missing out, and that is resulting into wrong behavior, wrong value system also. So having good peer groups is also very important for children's moral development and appropriate socialization. Then religious practices, cultural norms, like we have different festivals at home, we have different cultural, let's say, practices, customs and traditions, and they are influencing our value system over the period of time, belief system, our morals. This builds our individual morality, right? And we can say that finally, लास्ट सेशन में हमने देखा है कोर रिलीजन, एवरी रिलीजन हैज देयर, वी कैन से, कोर वैल्यूज, right? For example, Hinduism, tolerance, inclusiveness, and then we can talk about like nishkam karma, or we can talk about, let's say, truth, satyameva jayate. So these are core values. For Christianity, we have forgiveness, compassion. For Buddhism, love, non-violence, peace, and compassion. Then we can talk about this, let's say, uh, Islam religion, we have equality, we have charity, For let's say Sikhism, we have charity and we can say that compassion. Or we can talk about, let's say, Jainism, asteya, aparigraha. So many values are there, like non-stealing, non-harming, and all these values we can mention. Then media, and nowadays especially social media, children, we are always expecting question in our ethics paper, ठीक है? So media plays important role in, let's say, deciding what is right and wrong. If media is having some kind of paid news, propaganda, and all these things, then automatically our moral development is happening in the wrong direction. That's why it is called as fourth pillar of democracy, and media has its own media ethics that needs to be followed. Social media is the evolving, we can say that, platform, and its regulation is to some extent weak, but it is influencing the lives of people like anything. Okay, so how it is happening, we can see that the people are more, let's say, nowadays getting bondings on social media instead of any, let's say, physical meetups. People are concerned about their appreciation of their post on the social media. If they are not getting good likes on their post, and other people are getting more, then they are stressful. ठीक है? तो ये सब चीजें जो हो रहा है, that is not good, and that's why we can say that somehow it result into feeling of jealousy, anger, and we can say stressful life. It is going to create, let's say, isolation. ठीक है? Physical meetups और relationships जो होते हैं हमारे, they are basically breaking down, we are getting isolated. And social media is also having its, let's say, problems. Nowadays you can see the deep fakes, fake news, and all these things is spreading on social media. There is some kind of propaganda also, communalism, and let's say, even, let's say, political propaganda is also there on social media. So somehow it is affecting our moral development, socialization. So that's why all these aspects, ये देखिए, ये पॉइंट्स आपको एग्जाम्पल की तरह लिखना है. नाउ यू कैन अटेम्प्ट दिस क्वेश्चन. ठीक है, तो ये हो गया, मैंने बताया आपको. दिस वाज द क्वेश्चन एंड इट वाज रिपीटेड twice in 2017 as well as 2022. So Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam quote, if a country wants to be corruption free and become a nation of beautiful minds, I strongly feel there are three societal members who can make a difference. They are father, mother, and teacher. Simply we have to write, in the introduction itself you can talk about how Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam himself has talked about the role of his parents in inculcating good values in his own childhood. That will be more relevant introduction. Then you can talk about as a teacher the role. अगर ये नहीं बोल सकते हो तो as a teacher Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam himself is well appreciated, and the influence of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam on students or children especially, he was always ready to talk to children, because he was always, let's say, curious about the curious minds that children are having. He was more of, let's say, always talking about dream big, dream. Only when you dream, then let's say, they come to reality. So to, let's say, achieve something, one needs to dream of it. This is how he is always talking about, and that's why one can, let's say, start with the introduction like this, how they can make a difference always. And then the key terms, this one is one key term, and beautiful mind, nations of beautiful minds. Focus here on the good people. Good people will be having good value system, good character. So when I say nation of beautiful mind, the people with good character, good attitude, good value system. Corruption free, automatically we can say that it will be corruption free when the people are having good character, and we can say that automatically it will be reflected at workplace, or simply we can say that when they become civil servant. So corruption free. So father, mother, and teacher. So whenever we are talking about contribution of father in the early childhood, you should be talking about, like, always, like, when the father is law obedient, automatically the child is observing it, like honest taxpayer. There is very famous, let's say, one movie clip wherein Sharman Joshi is driving a two-wheeler with his child. Ferrari ki Sawari movie name. Okay, so you can watch that small clip is there. Okay, so what he does is, let's say he is going to office and he is going to drop his own child to a school on the way. Now, by mistake, that, let's say, Sharman Joshi, hero, is basically breaking the signal. He's jumping the signal, red signal. Now, after jumping the signal, he, let's say, comes to know that he has jumped the signal, red signal. Now, instead of simply moving ahead and going to the office, what he does is very unique. He goes back and reaches to the traffic policeman there and asks that traffic policeman to find the challan. नाउ दैट ट्रैफिक पुलिसमैन इज लाइक कि अरे भाई साहब आप क्यों इतना ये कर रहे हो, ठीक है, किसी ने देखा भी नहीं आपने तो आप जाइए, आप गए क्यों नहीं, ऐसा उन्होंने पूछा. सो बेसिकली व्हाट ही सेज इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ही सेज दैट भाई साहब मेरा बेटा बैठा हुआ है पीछे. when he is observing that I am breaking the signal and still going off without any penalty or punishment, that means he will consider that it is normal to do it, and if you do it there will not be any penalty. Look at the way father is inculcating value in the children, because the child is observing the father. Understood? So this kind of value system, that, let's say, father, and when that, let's say, no law obedient, let's say, parent or father is giving that value, corruption free, honesty, integrity. Then we can talk about, let's say, examples of mother. You can give examples like she is more of, let's say, giving examples like equal treatment at home among the siblings, right? So whether it is, let's say, daughter or son, she is not making any difference. I'm giving just example. So that equality is promoted at home itself, then automatically we can say that beautiful mind, good character. So there will not be gender discrimination by the, let's say, male at work. So ye equality ho gaya. Or you can talk about how they, let's say, behave with maid at house. So Mahatma Gandhi famously said that the person's character is reflected in the interaction with the other person who is of, let's say, lower stature than him in the society. जो गरीब है या फिर दूसरे कास्ट का है, छोटे कास्ट का है, ऐसा हम बोलते हैं ना, उनके साथ कैसा व्यवहार है, उससे वो पर्सन का चरित्र समझ में आता है, कैरेक्टर समझ में आता है. सो बेसिकली when the mother is behaving good and respectful, dignified manner with the maid, then the child gets those values and automatically beautiful mind, good character. Teacher, give examples of, let's say, how teacher is going to promote. Teacher is going to be promoting honesty, truthfulness. The teacher is going to, let's say, give stories of freedom fighters, leaders, Mahatma Gandhi, their stories, and the values that we can learn from their life. This is our syllabus topic itself, right? The teacher is going to teach them and, let's say, ask them to, let's say, inculcate those values in our life. Automatically, corruption free, beautiful minds. This is small examples we should give while let's say, teaching this particular, uh, sorry, writing answer to such kind of questions in your examination. Is this clear, everyone? So ultimately we can say that you bring the socialization process, you bring these keywords that we talked about. ये लॉरेंस कोलबर्ग का रेफरेंस दो, ठीक है, पूरा लिखना नहीं है, रेफरेंस देना है. दीज कीवर्ड्स शुड बी देयर. एजेंट्स ऑफ सोशलाइजेशन में हम पहले 3 की बात कर रहे हैं, तो दैट इज नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम. सोशलाइजेशन का वर्ड का हमें मेंशन करना है आंसर में. ऑल राइट, नाउ यू हैव गॉट द. देन नेक्स्ट इज इंपॉर्टेंट ह्यूमन वैल्यूज. ओके, once we get to know important human values, no, so automatically when the question is asked in the examination, you will try to link all these human values, or there can be question on directly on these human values also. For example, respect, empathy, compassion, responsibility, tolerance. They will use the word tolerance in any of the quote. Or justice, or forgiveness, gratitude, service to other people. There has been, let's say, PYQs, previous year question, on these topics, human values. Now what we are going to learn here is, we can say that simply meaning or definition, relevance in the present day society, and examples. This is what UPSC expect in answer. They will give the five values, explain their meaning and relevance to present society. Simple five values. We have to write the answer. I think so now you will be able to relate what I am trying to say here, right? Okay, so let's try to understand the first value. First value is what? Respect. Respect means what? It is basically, let's say, treating other person with fairness, upholding his dignity, upholding their dignity. Basically, it is humane treatment, considering other person as a person, human. That is basically being respectful. We can say that, uh, right? Valuing others, their dignity, their beliefs and rights. So simply we can say it is so respect. Now, why it is important? Why it is relevant in the present society? Relevance. You can talk about relevance. Why it is relevant? Respect. So discrimination, gender discrimination is happening, caste discrimination, you can talk about this, gender, caste, LGBTQ, ठीक है. So basically people are not respected. Discrimination, then we can talk about is, we can say that, manual scavenging, lack of respect. Then nowadays we can see the abandonment of elderlies by the children, by their own children, lack of respect, ठीक है, not taking care of the ill, let's say ill parents. So एग्जाम्पल्स ये ऐसे देने हैं आपको, ठीक है. इट इज रिलेवेंट. एंड व्हेन देयर इज लैक ऑफ रिस्पेक्ट, दिस ह्यूमन वैल्यू इज utmost important. Now I will tell you, when people are, let's say, behaving in such manner that is, let's say, resulting in lack of respect, discrimination, unfair treatment to the other people, what will happen? It creates a feeling of abandonment. It creates the feeling of, we can say, the disrespectful feeling is very harmful feeling. It creates negative emotions among those, let's say, people, other people who have been treated such in a disrespectful manner. Okay, so that is very, let's say, harmful. Why? Because it somehow brews, let's say, hatred. Okay, it creates hatred. It will lead to conflict. It can lead to violence also later on. It will affect overall stability in our society. Ultimately we can say that it is very important to treat other person as a human. You can give relevance to, let's say, what Mahatma Gandhi is talking, what Buddha is talking. So being respectful to other people, service to other people, ठीक है. तो ऐसा जब बोलता है स्वामी विवेकानंदा will say that service to other people is service to God, service to Jiva is service to, we can say that, Shiva. So respect is very important. Then when the respect is lost, no, the other person will feel, we can say that, loss of everything in the life. So that person will, let's say, lose the reason to live when the respect is lost. Try to understand this thing. It's very important. The person will feel helpless. The person will feel that there is no space for me to live this life. Okay, so that's why one should treat other people with respect. Right, that feeling of being disrespectful is very problematic. Try to understand. That's why essential or core human values I am talking here. The first one, empathy. So yes, empathy is, we know that, understanding the others, let's say, feeling, and let's say, trying to be in their shoes, understanding their concerns, right? So that is called as empathy. Nowadays it is very important. Why? Relevance, poor, weaker sections, So whatever the problems they are facing, we need to understand them so as to take further actions for their improvement. Okay, so for poor people we need to work. So as a civil servants also, civil servants should have empathy towards weaker section. It is a core foundational, we can say that, weaker sections. Foundational civil service values, empathy towards weaker sections. You can give examples. Okay, like welfare state, you can talk about that aspect also. Welfare state, compassion. So in general you can talk about in last session we have talked about let's say Mahatma Gandhi, Buddha, Mahavir, Dalai Lama, all they talk about is compassion. Even Sant Kabir. So all these personalities are talking about compassion. We should have compassion. It's not only to the people but also all living creatures, animals also, plants also. Compassion, it is also our, we can say that, fundamental duty. Compassion towards all living beings, so that compassion should be there. Then we can talk about, let's say, compassion towards animals is very important. Cruelty towards animals in present society, it is observed. Wildlife protection is also important. We are basically destroying their habitat. Then compassion towards the people, especially sick people, is important. Old age people, or those people who are, let's say, divyang people, one should have compassion towards them. Then only we can talk about is, let's say, working for their welfare. Responsibility is basically the feeling of self accountability, that you are responsible for your own actions. That is called as responsibility. It comes from within. It comes from within. Accountability is external. Self accountability, that is responsibility, comes from within. And that, let's say, sense of responsibility is basically generated or inculcated through socialization by the parents, teachers, right? So parents will tell the child that own up your responsibilities, whatever you have done, any kind of mistake you have done. Let's say you have done something wrong with your friend, so parents will tell you that go and talk to your friend, ask for his forgiveness. This is how they will talk. Own up your, let's say, mistake and take the responsibility to correct it. This feeling, or this, or let's say, automatically it is relevant. You can see that how it is relevant. Let's say present day society. So problems of sanitation, क्लीनलीनेस नहीं है, ठीक है, सभी तरफ प्रॉब्लम है सैनिटेशन का. पीपल आर नॉट टेकिंग रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, कहीं पे भी कचरा फेंक देते हैं, राइट? लिटरिंग, पब्लिक प्लेसेस. Then we can talk about is civil servants or public servants not taking responsibility. ठीक है, not taking responsibility, they will always, let's say, play blame game. Let's say there is flood like situation tomorrow in Bengaluru, then PWD department will say that ये हमारा problem नहीं था, ये किसी ने दूसरे department का काम था, उन्होंने किया है. Then the other department, transport department, will say that no, it is not our responsibility, हमारे jurisdiction में नहीं आता है. Then the police department will say that ये इसकी गलती है. This actually continues. लैक ऑफ रिस्पॉन्स. एंड किस, इससे क्या हो रहा है, इससे प्रॉब्लम क्या हो रहा है, आम आदमी जो है उसकी लाइफ खराब, गवर्नेंस इफेक्ट्स. ठीक है, सो ये हम बोल सकते हैं रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. सो वन शुड टेक द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, हैव दैट सेंस ऑफ टेकिंग, लेट्स से, ओनिंग अप द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. दिस इज important human value. All over, let's say, world, human values are appreciated, promoted, irrespective of any society. Tolerance, yes, again we can say important human value. Tolerance is, we can say that, being inclusive, receptive, being receptive, open minded to others views, opinions. We can say that their customs, value systems, belief systems, and we can say that that is called as tolerance. Okay, so tolerance is very important human value, especially in multi-religious, multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic country like India. Tolerance is important in terms of democratic country like India. One should be always and always respectful towards the others views, others traditions, customs, right? So you can come across, let's say, so many things, like for example, let's say Kuki and Meitei conflict in Manipur. You can talk about that need of tolerance, right? Both have different kind of, we can say, customs, traditions, and let's say all aspects. That is creating problem when the people become intolerant. They are not ready to accept, okay, other people, their, let's say, value systems, their belief system. The same we can talk about is when there are, let's say, communal tensions or violence, so riots. In such situation we need tolerance. So there is need of promoting tolerance. Indian society traditionally has been called as highly tolerant, right? Now when we say tolerant, हाईली टॉलरेंट होना भी प्रॉब्लमैटिक होता है कभी कभी, मतलब वो कुछ गलत हो रहा है, समथिंग रॉन्ग इज हैपनिंग, still people are tolerant. Now like it is being criticized that in that Mumbai local incident when the, let's say, the person was killed, a young boy was killed, what other people were doing? Some people were even videographing instead of stopping that person. ठीक है, चार पांच लोग मिलके उसको पकड़ लेते हैं और खुद की लाइफ को प्रोटेक्ट करना है सबको, right? And basically in such situation we are becoming highly tolerant, मतलब निगेटिव चीज को भी, करप्शन को भी हम बहुत ज्यादा टॉलरेट, right? And that's why corruption is like accepted norm nowadays in our society, bribe culture and all these things, we are become highly tolerant. वो भी गलत है. We are talking here tolerance as a human value, so one should have that, or we can say that being respectful to the others opinions, views, customs, traditions, their belief system. It is important in country like India, right? Then we can talk about is service to other people. So many references, Mahatma Gandhi, Buddha, Vivekananda, everyone talks about serving other people. It is also, we can say that, important one core value of civil services, public services, selfless service, selflessness, one of the seven Nolan principles also. ठीक है, तो service to other people is very important. Why? Because nowadays we can see that there is, let's say, self in society, right? Everyone is concerned about their self interest, materialism, and, let's say, consumerism, and all these, let's say, things are affecting, and this is creating, we can say that, kind of exploitation of the resources in very harmful manner. And poor people are becoming more poorer, rich are becoming more richer, and that's why ultimately it is affecting overall order in the society, and therefore service to other people. So when the people are serving the other people, or living their own life in that manner to serve the other people, then automatically we are moving towards that higher ideal to be achieved in our life. Lawrence Kohlberg, last stage, Kantian stage. If we are talking about the Maslow's higher needs, fifth stage, self actualization. If we talk about Buddha, it is enlightenment. If we talk about Aristotle, it is wisdom. Ultimately, in our life, we need to achieve all these things. That is called as summum bonum, chief good. So, service to other people is most important aspect of that. Okay, so service, we can say it is important human value. Then gratitude, feeling of gratitude is very important nowadays in our society. Feeling of gratitude is basically lacked a lot. Now why I'm saying like this, if we do something for other people, we feel that I have done some kind of favor to them, instead of thinking that I have got so much of resources, if I am helping with those resources with other people, I'm feeling gratitude. Gratitude in terms of, basically, I'm able to help other people. So God has given me that strength, power, authority, resources to help other people. That gratitude. No, लोग क्या सोचेंगे, मैंने तुझे हेल्प किया था, तू क्या कर रहा है मेरे साथ? Okay, you should give me favor back in future. This is what feeling is there. Then lack of gratitude creates some kind of, let's say, continuous desires, and we can say that self-interest, selfishness, consumerism, and same insta-worthy lifestyle. Everything is basically because of this only. There is a rat race, कंटिन्यूअसली वी आर फोकसिंग ऑन, लेट्स से अभी 50,000 सैलरी है तो अगले 6 महीने में वो 1 लाख हो जाए, फिर 1.5 लाख हो जाए, मेरे दोस्त की सैलरी इतनी है देन मेरी सैलरी इतनी होनी चाहिए. This continuous, let's say, feeling is problematic. One should have feeling of gratitude that whatever I am having, I must be, let's say, thankful. ठीक है, being thankful. Gratitude means what? Being thankful. Feeling of being thankful. This feeling is lacked. एंड इसलिए सब जो है स्ट्रेस, सुसाइड, ये सब इश्यू हो रहा है आज के लाइफ. ये सब लिखिए, राइट. वी आर नॉट, लेट्स से, बीइंग फीलिंग कंटेंट. बुद्धा सेज कंटेनमेंट इज द ग्रेटेस्ट वेल्थ, इजंट इट? तो वो लिखिए आप यहाँ पे, बीइंग थैंकफुल, इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट ह्यूमन वैल्यू. ठीक है, तो बीइंग थैंकफुल इज, ग्रेटिट्यूड बेसिकली इंप्रूव्स आवर ह्यूमन रिलेशंस आल्सो, इंटरपर्सनल रिलेशंस. ठीक है, आप जब दूसरे पर्सन को हेल्प करते हो, इन रिटर्न आप हेल्प सीख मत करो ना, जस्ट बी थैंकफुल. ठीक है, राइट. अब ऐसे सिचुएशन में आपको ये भी नहीं लगेगा कि वो कब मुझे वो रिटर्न करेगा पैसे, कब मुझे वो रिटर्न करेगा फेवर. आप स्ट्रेस में ही रहोगे हमेशा. क्यों कर रहा है ऐसे? ठीक है. So one should always think like this. Now let's talk about next. Honesty. Yes, it is also very important value, and we can see that nowadays the truth, honest, and honest people are like scarce resource, isn't it? So why I'm saying like this scarce resource? You can see that the people are always nowadays are deceiving other people. They are being dishonest for self-interest. They want to, have self-interest or satisfy their own interest only. And this is basically through dishonest means. So people are lacking honest means of livelihood. They are deceiving other people. This honesty, when it is lost, then this important human value is lost, and that is going to create lot of problems in our society. Automatically it leads to some kind of corruption, scams on the larger scales. And who is going to get affected? Common people, poor people. Ultimately it creates chaos in the society. It creates political instability. What is happening in Bangladesh, Nepal, what happened, what is happening in the countries like Afghanistan, West African countries? It's corruption, it's dishonesty, basically the root cause, we can say that, right? And those who are in powerful position, they are misusing their power, being dishonest to those who are being governed. ठीक है, जिन्होंने वोट दिया उनको पावर में आने के लिए, उनके अगेंस्ट, उनके लेट्स से खिलाफ जाके वो डिसऑनेस्ट, उनके अगेंस्ट ही डिसऑनेस्ट है वो. अंडरस्टूड? So in this manner we can talk about, then need of honesty is there. When the person is honest with other person, it builds trust, builds trust, trustworthy relation. It builds social capital. Social capital is very important. No, human is a social animal. Social capital, if no people are not being honest, then no one will trust each other. How we can survive in a society when no one trusts each other? Can you imagine that kind of society? I'm always insecure. Someone will harm, someone will exploit me, someone will rob me. यही सब चल रहा है ना, right? This is going to be chaotic. Human is social animal, ठीक है? And for that to live in a society, there must be some kind of trust. That trust comes from honesty. Try to understand, guys. Ultimately ये नहीं है तो सोसाइटी नहीं है, ठीक है? ह्यूमन ही नहीं है बेसिकली. Forgiveness, again we can talk about forgiveness. Yesterday also we talked a lot when Mahatma Gandhi says that we cannot forgive, it is a trait of strong people. Forgiveness is very important human value, because being, let's say, to err is being human. मतलब क्या है? ह्यूमन जो है गलती करता रहता है. बेसिकली ह्यूमन मेक्स मिस्टेक. That is, we can say, normal thing. When the person is making mistake or something that is resulting into harming other person, then person should seek forgiveness, and the other person should try to understand that and forgive other person. in the present society, that value is also lacked upon. छोटा पार्किंग के इश्यू से लोग झगड़ रहे हैं नेबर से, खून हो रहा है, दे आर किलिंग ईच अदर. What kind of society we are basically moving into? When the person is being killed just because of small mistake that person is doing. Okay, can we not be tolerant or receptive, or at least understanding what that person might be going through, his own circumstances, situation. घर पे कुछ डेथ हुआ है, कुछ रिलेशंस में प्रॉब्लम्स आ रही है, फैमिली लाइफ में फाइनेंशियल कंस्ट्रेंट्स है, एट वर्क प्लेस देयर आर लेट्स से प्रॉब्लम्स. अब वो सब बिना सोचे समझे हम बस. फॉरगिवनेस इज अ ट्रेट ऑफ पर्सन विथ मैग्नानिमिटी. मतलब क्या, दिल बड़ा होना चाहिए टू ओवरकम वंस ईगो. वंस वी कैन से दैट स्टेचर, फीलिंग ऑफ स्टेचर कि मैं बड़ा आदमी हूँ, मैं रिच हूँ, मैं आईएएस हूँ, ठीक है, अब मैं कैसे फॉरगिव कर दूँ, तो मेरे साथ कैसे गलत कर दिया तुमने, मैं तो बड़ा हूँ ना. So this kind of, let's say, feeling that is not good, it is against human value, we can say that. And that's why forgiveness, nowadays you can see that at world level also there are different wars, conflicts. You can see that France has apologized so many countries like Rwanda. जो Rwandan genocide हुआ था तो उन्होंने openly माफी मांगी हुई है, right? And let's say many of the, let's say, officers, Britishers also, they have, let's say, this view that whatever happened, especially Jallianwala Bagh massacre is there, or जो भी Britishers ने India के साथ किया है, to some extent, let's say, we should be also forgiving the way Nelson Mandela had forgiven those who have imprisoned him for 27 years. He said that I forgive you. This is how ग्रेट लीडर्स, महात्मा गांधी, नेल्सन मंडेला, ठीक है. अब आप सोच सकते हो ना कि वो 2-3 जनरेशन के पहले के लोगों ने किया है, अभी इस जनरेशन की क्या गलती है उसमें, राइट? एंड वी कैन नॉट पनिश देम फॉर दैट, राइट? यस, when they understand their mistakes or their mistakes of ancestors, yes, of course we need to be, let's say, having large heart. Also forgiveness shows that you are ready to mend your relationship, you are ready to amend, ready to, let's say, uh, uh, focus on building your relation again. Let's take example. Nowadays what we observe even at small level, ये तो मैंने वर्ल्ड वॉर्स का एग्जांपल दे दिया. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट नाउ फैमिली, husband wife relation, marital relations. So let's say nowadays you can see that the divorce rate has gone up. ये भी आप देखते हैं स्पेशली इन अर्बन एरियाज इन इंडिया, इंडियन सोसाइटी, उसके सोसाइटी में क्वेश्चंस आपको आते रहता है, राइट? एक्सपेक्टेड क्वेश्चन रहता है. नाउ व्हाई देयर इज इंक्रीज इन डिवोर्स रेट्स? देयर मे बी डिफरेंट रीजंस. Okay, like let's say the societal setups, the family responsibilities. Nowadays you can see that women are going out, they're working, it's not only that they are managing home and taking care of, let's say, elderly children is their responsibility, but we should also understand that if suppose either of them are making some mistakes, are they ready to understand and adjust their different way of life, their different backgrounds from which they come, and that's why the different belief system. Tolerance is also relevant here. Respect is also very relevant value in, let's say, personal relations, husband wife relations. And at the same time, are we able to trust them? Are we being honest? सारे सारे, let's say, ह्यूमन वैल्यूज जो भी हमने पढ़े हैं वो सब लागू होता है पर्सनल वैल्यूज, बिकॉज ह्यूमन वैल्यू इज द वैल्यू when we let's say interact with other person, automatically all these values will be applied. Now small mistakes in the marital life, if that is resulting into big fights, and that, let's say, not understanding each other, not adjusting or not being flexible, that is going to create some problem. No, that is going to result in divorce. And that's why forgiveness, whether we are considering that person more important than his mistake or her mistake, that shows that you are ready to, give more importance for a value to your relation rather than that incident or that particular, let's say, mistake that may have happened because of certain circumstances. external, let's say, influences हो सकता है, right? And that's why forgiveness is very important. And lastly, we can say that justice, yes, very important. We can say that human value, first value we said respect. वहां पे मैंने बताया there will be, let's say, discrimination, unfair treatment. That discrimination, unfair treatment result into feeling of injustice among the minds of people, and that feeling of injustice is not good. When the people are feel have this feeling of injustice or being subjugated, being discriminated with unfair treatment and all these things, and you can see that there is misuse of power, lack of equal opportunities, and all these things is happening, then the people are always angry. Okay, that will not result into order in society, that it will create chaos, conflicts, violence, because injustice anywhere is threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King Jr. Injustice anywhere is threat to justice everywhere. You can use this quote also. And that's why there is a need of justice, and that's why our actions, our treatment to other people should be fair. It should be just, it should be humane. And that's why this is important, human value. I hope that you have understood all these 10 human values. Directly or indirectly इनको use करना है दोस्तों, ठीक है? Yes. Now next you can deal with these kinds of questions now easily. Crisis of ethical values in modern times is traced to narrow perception of good life. So first of all, let's try to understand whether there is really crisis of ethical values. I would say that crisis of ethical values you can link with human values also. यहाँ पर सोसाइटी की बात हो रही है तो यस, क्राइसिस ऑफ ह्यूमन वैल्यूज. अब मैंने जो 10 वैल्यूज बताए, आउट ऑफ दोस 10 वैल्यूज ऑलमोस्ट ऑल वैल्यूज यू कैन लिंक हियर. चलिए देखते हैं ना लगा के, राइट? लेट्स ट्राई टू सी. यस. So respect, you can see that there is a crisis, there is a gender discrimination, caste discrimination, यही लिखना है. Manual scavenging, elderly people being disrespected. Recent incident, you may have come across that video where elderly couple is being beaten by a taxi driver in Mumbai, Thane. You may have come across that video, and that elderly couple is trying to ask that person, don't spit on the road. They are walking on that road. So just because of that, the car driver, that cab driver is directly doing violence with them, being disrespectful. ये तो छोटा example है. You can come across so many things wherein you can see the disrespect. Then you can talk about empathy. There is poverty, there is, let's say, social injustice, especially weaker sections, they are not given justice, and there is lack of empathy. That's why this injustice and discrimination. The feeling of empathy is very important. This human value is lacked, and that's why you can see that the people are not concerned about poor people, they are not concerned about weaker sections. They are concerned about how I can increase my wealth, how I can increase my, let's say, position in the society, or we can say that power, how I can hold on to my power, authority. यही सोचे जा रहे हैं. That's why there is a crisis. Now all this crisis is happening for what? Narrow perception of good life. This narrow perception of good life is, we can say that simply, it is materialistic life. Okay, what is good life? Narrow perception will say that it is like having good job, high paying job, house, cars, luxury cars, watches, or we can say that we are able to go to holidays every now and then materialistic life, right? As compared to other people, as compared to other people we have good job, as compared to other people we have good house, महंगी गाड़ी है, महंगे वॉच है, और बाकी लोगों से ज़्यादा हम बाहर जा रहे हैं घूमने के लिए दूसरी कंट्री में. नैरो परसेप्शन ऑफ गुड लाइफ, राइट? नैरो परसेप्शन. We are always on a comparison mode. We are always on a comparison mode. दूसरे से बेहतर होना चाहिए, बड़ा होना चाहिए, ये सब चीजें. दिस इज व्हाट, एंड वी आर कॉलिंग दिस एज अ सक्सेस इन लाइफ. We are calling this as a success in life. And this narrow perception of good life is being taught from childhood itself. बच्चे को बोल रहे हैं 10th के बाद क्या करोगे बेटा? आईआईटी इंजीनियर. आईआईटी में जाएगा, कौन सा कितना पैकेज मिल गया, कहाँ जाएगा, बाहर जाएगा एमएस करेगा, आईएम में जाएगा एमबीए करेगा, बड़ा पैकेज. फिर शादी, फिर शादी में क्या है, एकदम बड़ी महंगी शादी, एक्स्ट्रा वैगन्स खर्चा करना उसमें, बहुत सारी चीजें. एंड देन लेट्स से हैविंग बिग हाउस, एंड वी कैन से दैट बिग कार्स, लग्जरियस लाइफ, गुड लाइफ. जिंदगी में क्या ही कमी है, सब कुछ है. This is not basically a true, or we can say that good perception, broader perception of, let's say, good life. Rather, when we talk about a broader perception, it is more of a spiritual life, or we can say that blending materialistic life with the spiritual life. Balance होना चाहिए. Balance होना चाहिए. We need to balance it. And how we can balance that? We can balance that by following madhyam marg, moderation, doctrine of mean. We have learned this in first session. Okay, so people must follow moderation in life, temperance, continuous desires, desire to have luxurious car. घर पे अभी वैगनर है, तो फिर टाटा पंच लेनी है और महंगी गाड़ी लेनी है, ठीक है, उससे महंगी फोक्स वैगन की गाड़ी लेनी है, देन BMW लेनी है, फिर मर्सिडीज लेनी है, ये सब चलता रहेगा जिंदगी में, राइट. One should have moderation. No, what is utility of car? If it is satisfying, then what is need of further more luxurious car? Madhyam marg, moderation, right? Then we can talk about is, let's say, broader perception will include basically having, like, serving other people, giving back to the society, social responsibility, giving back to the society, responsibility towards environment, our let's say actions. Like recently you may have come across this news that the data centers, because of high use of AI, the data centers are consuming lot of water, that too fresh water. अब आप देख सकते हो कि आपकी लग्जरियस लाइफ की वजह से, नैरो परसेप्शन गुड लाइफ की वजह से, जो पानी जो है वो खत्म होए जा रहा है. एंड सबसे ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट किस पे होगा? वो पुअर पीपल. ऑलरेडी दे आर लैकिंग एक्सेस टू क्लीन ड्रिंकिंग वाटर, है ना. जो अमीर है उसको तो पैसे देके वो कैसे भी खरीद ही लेगा, ऐसे ही समझो अल्टीमेटली. बट यस, when we have moderation, when we have all these things in mind, it is a broader perception. And ultimately you can write is basically one should always try to seek wisdom in the life, self actualization, that why we have come in this life, what is ultimate aim of this life, chief good, summum bonum. It is intellectual happiness, wisdom, helping other people through moderation, doctrine of mean, practicing four cardinal virtues, moral courage, justice, temperance, wisdom. ठीक है, तो ये सब चीजें लिखनी है आंसर में. आई होप दैट यू आर एबल टू राइट आंसर टू दिस क्वेश्चन. ठीक. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन वी कैन अटेम्प्ट इज, in the context of defense services, patriotism demands readiness to even lay down one's life in protecting the nation. According to you, what does patriotism imply in everyday civil life? Explain with illustrations. Illustrations, you need to give examples. Examples from day to day life. Illustrations. Daily life की बात करें. Justify, give some ethical arguments. So you can start with the introduction. No, Operation Sindoor. So our armed forces, many armed force personnel died in Operation Sindoor in protecting our country, protection of the nation. You can write, this is, we can say, the highest level of patriotism one can exhibit. being a soldier and giving life for the nation, for protection of nation. That is the highest level of patriotism one can exhibit. But yes, on day to day life also, common citizens can also exhibit or show the patriotism. It's not only that standing in the cinema hall when the national anthem is played upon, it's not that patriotism, but actually in our actions. Okay, in day to day life, now what kind of, let's say, actions we can do in our day to day life which shows a patriotism, we can say, as a value in our day to day life? Simply we can talk about is, first of all, being a law abiding citizen. Don't you think so? Example दीजिए, paying taxes on time without any tax evasion or avoidance, paying taxes on time. So simple example you can give, or following other laws, traffic rules, everything. ठीक है, हेलमेट पहनो गाड़ी चलाते वक्त, सीट बेल्ट पहनो, एवरीथिंग, स्मॉल स्मॉल थिंग्स, इट इज बेसिकली बीइंग पैट्रियोटिक, following the law of the land. Then second you can talk about is respecting diversity. So India is, we can say that, multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multi-linguistic. So there will be diversity, right? Respecting that diversity is, we can say, part of patriotism, right? Because India as a country is a diverse, and we say that unity in diversity. So without respecting diversity, how we can have unity? So patriotism, respect the diversity. That example you can give. So whatever the linguistic, let's say, problems that we are seeing, that Hindi speaking people in southern states, they are not being, let's say, treated well, or let's say those people from the south India, when they are living in the north Indian states, they are being discriminated based on different aspect, ठीक है, but discrimination हो रहा है, that is problematic, it is not good, it is not patriotic, we can say that feeling. Then keeping environment clean, yes, of course, it is, जो भी हमारे फंडामेंटल ड्यूटीज है ना, बेसिकली दे आर पार्ट ऑफ बीइंग पैट्रियोटिक. ओके, तो सारा वहां पे लिंक कर दो. कीपिंग आवर एनवायरनमेंट क्लीन, पब्लिक प्लेसेस, प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ पब्लिक प्लेसेस एंड पब्लिक प्रॉपर्टी, ये भी हमारा एक पैट्रियोटिज्म ही दर्शाता है. ठीक है, कीपिंग एनवायरनमेंट क्लीन, so not throwing or littering on the public places, saving the water, protecting trees. Then being responsible in public life. So I told you, like, being responsible in public life. So nowadays you can see that people, जो भी पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, सब पहले, सबसे पहले उसे फोड़ देंगे, तोड़ देंगे, खराब कर देंगे. रेलवेज का आप हाल देख रहे हो, right? So you can see that public infrastructure, we are not respecting it. So we need to have responsible behavior, disciplined behavior in the public transport and workplaces. Helping other people, needy people especially, है ना, helping old age people or divyang people. So that is basically patriotism only, that you can write. Then ultimately we can say that participating in a democracy. So we are, let's say, participating in elections, voting in the elections, even helping people getting aware about, let's say, different candidates and overall government decisions, policies. So that is, we can say that being a responsible citizen in a democratic country, right? Participating in a democracy, questioning constructively also to the government, and engage in nation building. Then doing one's duty diligently. So whatever the work you are doing, be it, let's say, in a public office, government job, or private job, do it diligently. If you are doing private sector job and there also you are doing some kind of dishonest work, that is against patriotism. Okay, in western countries, especially in US, you can see that patriotism feeling is so ingrained since childhood that they will feel that whatever they are doing, their job, it is ultimately helping the government or nation overall, let's say, as a country, it is strengthening a country as a force, and that's why they will always do their job diligently. Okay, so we should be also doing that, being ethical and honoring the nation. So simply we can say that when we talk about honoring the nation, different aspects, it's not only the honoring national anthem, national flag, but also cherishing the ideals, and the struggle of the, let's say, freedom fighters in the freedom struggle, everything we should be, let's say, respecting and honoring those ideals that they have given us, forefathers of the nation, right? So that is, we can say that, a true patriotism. And it is important because it builds a strong and united nation, it strengthens the democracy and good governance, also it creates a social harmony and build a strong social capital that is very helpful in the emergency like situation, like there is a disaster like condition, all people will unite and try to help. What we have witnessed in the Kerala floods or last year Punjab floods, everyone got there on the ground to help. The same we can talk about is whenever there is a war like situation. So the all country unites in support of government, in support of armed forces. Okay. So it promotes sustainable development, and we can say that encourages pride in India's achievements, inspires others, and there is a positive reaction chain. All right. So in this manner we can deal with this question. ठीक है, तो जस्टिफाई बोला है ना, तो जस्टिफाई में एंड में हमें ये रीजंस देने हैं एथिकल आर्गुमेंट कि क्यों जरूरी है. All right. Then this question: current society is plagued with widespread trust deficit. It is talking about trust deficit. Is it so? Let's try to understand. Again, human values. Trust. I told you honesty. Because of lack of honesty, justice, there is a trust deficit. What are the consequences of this situation for, first thing, personal well-being, second, for societal well-being, and what can you do at personal level to make yourself trustworthy? Measures. So these are some three parts, we can say that three parts of the question. Yes. So is there a crisis? Let's try to understand that whether there is a crisis or not, and then we can talk about, let's say, whether how can we make ourselves trustworthy. Okay, trust deficit. So trust deficit can be visible in the present society. In introduction itself you can talk about the trust deficit can be seen in terms of, let's say, among the people in society, and we can say that trust deficit in government, of the people in the government, of people in government. This you can see that protest nowadays, recent protest we can say that, and the exam paper leaks, neat paper leak, because of such, let's say, then corruption cases, misuse of authority, right? So there are protests, you can talk about this cockroach cockroach Janata Party. Recently there were protests, you can mention that also. And यूपीएससी के भी स्टूडेंट्स ने प्रोटेस्ट किया था अगेंस्ट यूपीएससी, so you can mention that also. So there is a trust deficit of the people in the government, among the people in society. Now this is happening because people are behaving selfish man, unfair treatment. Then we can talk about abuse of power. Then you can say that rich poor divide. So how poor will trust rich corporates? How employee will trust employer? This is creating trust deficit. No, there is feeling of unfair treatment, right? Discrimination, that creates trust deficit. Give examples, and then we can talk about consequences. Then personal well-being, and societal well-being. So personal well-being you can talk about is always there will be insecurity, feeling of insecurity because of trust deficit. Then we can say that social isolation, People are selfish. No one wants to have or good relations with each other. Lack of interpersonal relations. It will increase stress, anxiety. Human is social animal. Stress, anxiety. अकेले रह के स्ट्रेस और एंजाइटी बढ़ता जाएगा और ठीक है पर्सनल वेल बीइंग में ये सब मेंटल हेल्थ इंपैक्ट करेगा राइट सोशल आइसोलेशन पुअर टीम वर्क राइट इमोशनल स्ट्रेस ट्रस्ट डेफिसिट होगा तो पुअर टीम वर्क होगा ना एक दूसरे पर ट्रस्ट ही नहीं कर रहे तो ओवरऑल टीम की प्रोडक्टिविटी इट विल डिक्लाइन फॉर सोसाइटल वेलबींग डिक्लाइन इन सोशल कैपिटल right decline in social capital then what we can say that so society ट्रस्ट डेफिसिट होगा तो क्या होगा हॉस्टिलिटी बढ़ता जाएगा इंक्रीज इन हॉस्टाइल एनवायरमेंट हॉस्टिलिटी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स टेंशंस among the different sections of community it can be caste religion race whatever it is okay so that can be there then we can talk about is yes low citizen participation weak democratic institutions क्योंकि citizen participation कम हो जाएगा right so that you can mention then further what we can write yes communal polarization trust deficit होगा तो और ज़्यादा communal violence polarization होगा society में ultimately it will social order will be collapse there will not be no harmony and order in society ultimately okay so that creates problem no trust deficit so at personal level of course one should always try to be trustworthy how one can be trustworthy one can be truthful honest while dealing with each other public place private life one should be honest right in their dealing with other people then what we can mention yes one can honor commitments honor your commitments that will build the trust जो बोला है करो right honor your commitments then we can say that harmony between your thoughts words and actions so double standards नहीं दिखेगा लोगों को ना तो then people will start trusting you there should be harmony right between these three then we can talk about be transparent admit mistakes admit your own mistakes that builds trust I told you so seek forgiveness admit mistakes then we can talk about further be transparent in action so that will increase the trust then we can say that be fair in treating others automatically trust will increase है ना फेयरनेस है डिस्क्रिमिनेट नहीं कर रहा है impartiality होनी चाहिए then we can talk about is show empathy and respect automatically trust will be there simple examples for all these you can talk about as a civil servant when you show empathy and respect to your juniors your colleagues when you are posted in your new office automatically there will be trust building okay when you are fair in the treatment there will be trust that you are not going to abuse your power to favor someone or have discrimination towards the others be transparent in your actions then no one will question you, and that's why people will trust the government. That's why we need to promote transparency in the administration, so as to increase the trust of people in the government. Sabka saath sabka vikas sabka vishwas. That's why the present government talks about vishwas, trust. यहाँ से आता है वो, सब उसका एग्जाम्पल लिखो. Then admit your mistakes. If you admit your mistake, it shows your humility. Okay, that shows you are not having ego, and that shows that yes, person can make mistake, you are accepting it. जैसे रिंकू सिंह राही का एग्जांपल मैंने कल भी डिस्कस किया था. तो ही एक्सेप्टेड एडमिटेड हिज मिस्टेक डिस्पाइट ऑफ बीइंग आईएएस ऑफिसर. तो उससे वो छोटा नहीं बन जाता है एक्सेप्ट करने से, राइट? सो रादर दैट बिल्ड्स द ट्रस्ट in that person. Once you act, so even in private life, private relations, husband wife relations, so if let's say a husband is accepting mistake, wife is accepting admitting his mistake, so that further strengthens the relations by rebuilding the trust. Okay, all these things you can, let's say, give example from private life, personal life, as well as professional life. All right, so these questions are very important. I'm telling you that first part we learn about essence of ethics, that is the core foundation of, we can say, all what ethics is all about, the normative ethics theories, applied ethics and all. Then we learn about the teachings of great personalities, leaders, social reformers, and today we try to understand how to be in the society, our private relations as well as public relations. In that, what ethics is applied, whether they are same or different, how they influence each other, socialization and role of parents, teachers, and we can say that overall society, and how we can say that the present society is facing different problems, including crisis of human values, ethical values, and how one can become trustworthy in such kind of scenario. So basically there will be one question in applied manner to the present contemporary society and the challenges, problems we are facing. All the discussion is very very relevant here, and you should be using that for your. So again I'm repeating, all these notes we are going to attach in the comment box as a drive file, pdf file. वहां से आप वो download करिए, you download from there. And then if you have liked this video, of course what you have to do, you have to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share with your friends, because it is a free knowledge. Once you share your knowledge, it is going to increase double your knowledge. ठीक है, तो अच्छे काम हमेशा और हमेशा दूसरों को शेयर करने चाहिए. It is the human value, no, sharing. It is the human value that one should be always helping other people, serving other people. आपके दोस्तों को भी आप शेयर करिए ये, अगर आपको लगता है कि इससे आपको बेनिफिट होगा. All right, okay, let us stop for today. In next session we are going to cover the attitude topic, everything about attitude, उसके सारे सब topics जो भी हो गया, and whatever the previous year questions are there, and I am going to provide some micro notes for attitude topic. All right, so see you in the next class. Till then, keep studying. Okay.